Welcome to the Catholic Midlife podcast, where we address the challenges and the opportunities of midlife from a uniquely Catholic perspective. This is the time, my friends, for a deeper renewal of your Christian vocation. Come and enter into the freedom of Christ that allows you to be the person you were created to be, because there's an amazing, awesome, exciting next season of life waiting for you. Hello and welcome to the Catholic Midlife podcast. You're here with Karen and Curtis Herbert.
Hi, everybody.
And this is episode 107, Helping Your Marriage to Blossom in Midlife.
Okay, let's do it.
Let's do it. Thanks for being here with us on our marriage journey.
Absolutely. And Karen, I want to say something about our listeners. Usually we do the other way around, but I was sitting with a group who are really, they're kind of our target audience. And I know a couple of them listen. And I have to say, well, it was kind of a sharing sort of setup. There were a group of people, Catholics, midlife. And after listening to people's stories, I started to feel really impressed. And you're looking at a group of people and they seem very ordinary, but after you listen to their stories and you hear what's been going on today and in their past and what they're overcoming, I thought, wow, this is an amazing group of people. And that's really our listener.
Wow. So part of what I'm hearing there, Curtis, is, we can think that we're not doing much or we're not really living up to who we want to be. And when we sit down and think about it, we have overcome a lot. We've been through a lot. And
Absolutely.
we've allowed that to change us and to grow.
It's true. And how we respond to that is so critical. Now, Karen, today I want to revisit something we did in the past. And this is an acronym that you coined, which is kind of unusual.
That's true. I definitely don't like acronyms.
Yeah, somehow it's not your thing, but you coined the SHARP acronym for marriage.
Right, I did.
Yeah, and that was back in episode 51. And I wanted to kind of cruise through it and not redo it, but to see how you might respond to the SHARP this time around. So everyone, let's bear in mind that John Gottman, a marriage guru, can Catholics have gurus?
Yes, we can. We could have mentors. We can have people we admire, people we follow.
Okay, so he's a big deal in the research world. He says marriages will slowly erode and get worse if we don't put energy into them.
Gosh darn it, I wanted to put you on autopilot.
I know. Wouldn't that be lovely?
It would be.
Yeah. Alas, but your investment's going to pay off, honey. Don't worry.
Thank you.
Don't worry about a thing. And Karen, to set this up just a little bit, investing in marriage, it's an important time at midlife, especially when you're starting to look at the empty nest, kids are moving out. Another big inflection point is retirement.
It's
especially
huge.
For the men.
It's huge transition.
And men, I've talked to enough of them, and surprisingly, they have a very specific, detailed, and powerful plan for their marriage and retirement.
They do?
They do. Do you want to know what it is?
I do.
It's this. Now that I'm retired, my wife can spend a lot more time and energy on me.
That sounds like a plan for the spouse.
Yeah, that's a great plan. I love that plan. And that plan could include some SHARP.
Okay. I think I remember a few of these.
Okay, so S, Karen, is create a shared vision.
Shared vision. And I like this because I remember recently you and I were working on making a decision, and it was extremely difficult decision and stressful. And we got to the end of it and we had to work through a lot and really dig into our skills. And I remember saying, I'm so grateful that we are able to get on the same page with some of these things. And just being on the same page and having the shared vision for who we're trying to be and what we're trying to accomplish. Just even though it was very difficult, it made it possible for us to be united in what we were about.
The shared vision really paid off.
Yes.
It's sort of like we'd done the work.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And part of it is, I think you were telling me this, part of it is not just a shared vision, but you have a shared story. And you can really own that and lean into it as your story. And that really spoke to me.
I think story is very powerful, and it's often, I think, a tool we overlook. There's this anecdote that I think you shared with me, this couple that read 2 Timothy chapter 4, verses 7. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. And this couple asked themselves, well, when we finish the race, what do we want to say our marriage looked like? And they went off and made a list of things they wanted to be true about themselves and their marriage after they'd been married for 50 years.
Curtis, I wonder if we could look at that question even from the story lens. Like when I finish the race and I'm looking back, what are the kinds of stories that we want to tell about our life together and our family and our things that we were striving for? What do we want those stories to say?
I like what you said, the kinds of stories, because Karen, most of my stories usually start with some kind of complaint. This happened, well, this happened, blah, 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 and this is how I responded. And that's a kind of story. And done properly, that could be kind of an overcoming story.
Right.
And that could be very good, but there could be other kinds of stories.
Yes. Wow, you're really getting me thinking here. Like, I want to sit down and really consider this question, that what do I want to come out in the stories that we might tell about this season of life?
And here's another way to frame the same question. What do you want to be true about yourselves and your marriage 10 years from now? And I like this question because it's rooted in friendship. And Gottman really emphasizes the role of friendship in marriage. This is really the getting close to the bedrock of being just great friends. And good friends, they're helping each other be their best. They're helping each other be strong in the faith and to enjoy life and to deal with the negative things. This is friendship, choosing the good.
So I'm thinking, Curtis, about, how we really can come to appreciate the beauty of each person and their personality and their characteristics and their strengths and what it is that they do well and what it is they're called to as a person. And I'm starting to think maybe about marriage as, if you look at a couple, that we really do have distinguishing characteristics in our marriage, things that are true about it, almost like a personality of your marriage. And I wonder if we don't often appreciate those very unique, special qualities that a couple can have in their marriage bond.
Right. So that starts to make me think about differences. And these could be pretty comical, right? When
Between couples, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. They're variances.
Yeah. But in a very lovely way.
One thing that occurred to me as you spoke is that this story, it's retrospect and it's future story. But as we learn to honor each other, to say what we like about each other, especially at those occasions, birthdays and key holidays, we have times of honoring each other. And that's part of the story. It's part of the story we're telling about each other is what you're doing well with something that I really appreciate or that makes me laugh.
So I wonder, maybe S could be not only shared vision, but what is our shared story? What is our shared personality? And what makes us unique as a couple?
I like it.
Awesome.
I like it. Let's
Awesome.
roll with that.
So what's the H?
H, healing the past. So we all have disappointments, hurts, wounds. We have things to forgive each other for. Those things need to be healed up. They need to be healed up to the point where we're not carrying resentment. It's not bringing bad energy into the relationship, and also for our own interior purposes.
So do you think this healing, do we mean specifically between the couple, things that may have been wounds between the couple?
Well, that's what I'm referring to. Of course, we all, the more we can deal with our own baggage, the more we help our spouse. So if I'm holding on to unforgiveness or whatever it is outside the marriage, when I can detoxify that, maybe even release it, I'm going to help the marriage. But I'm talking about things that we've more or less done to each other.
Yeah. Okay. Because I just actually thought of something personally that I think needs some healing, but it's not about us. But I'm just curious. It probably affects our relationship, because if you have something, as an individual, it's going to ricochet out everywhere.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Letting go of the past, it can take a lot of different forms. There was a couple, they made a list of things they would never do and things they couldn't change. I think they must have been going through some hard times. And
like
they were
about each other, things they couldn't change about each other, and things they would never do to the other
or about
person.
their marriage past, like things about your kids.
Oh,
perhaps.
okay.
A lot of angst in the marriage comes, if you have kids, from those kids.
So this is maybe a part of this is accepting reality.
Yeah.
Like it's never going to happen that we'll do this anymore.
Yeah, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
That's not going to be true for us.
And accepting that some things can't be changed. And so those can be released so we're not stuck in them. We can move on.
Yeah, it was an example of healing. And
I think when we think about healing the past, sometimes we have this sense that, well, it's in the past, we should just release it and move on. And, we don't want to bring up stuff that's just going to get us stuck in the past. But also, I feel like we don't always appreciate when something is a block. And we may maybe undervalue what kind of healing can happen in something that's under the surface.
It's hard to know what battles to fight. Plainly, there may be some things that the relationship's not ready to deal with.
Yeah.
But I do believe, Karen, to be candid, you're not a processor, and you've got things going on. If you had maybe stronger boundaries about who you are and what should happen to you and what's right and what's wrong, and you're more opinionated about that type of thing, then more of this might come up, and then you could bring it up, and then I could avoid it. I don't know what I'm avoiding right now, honey, and that's troubling to me.
Okay. Well, I accept what you said. I think it's accurate, and I'm encouraged to dig a little deeper and bring up this up, because I remember I have no idea who I was talking with one time, and we were like, I think, what did we say? Just because you don't have the conflict in the marriage doesn't mean you're united.
Right.
And it's not about avoiding the conflict or maintaining this peace, because there's really important deepening things that can happen when we pull up things and seek reconciliation and unity around them.
Absolutely. So this is a tricky subject. However, if you feel the need for some healing in the marriage, perhaps there are some ways you could start to bring it up tactfully at the right time and place, and in a positive way.
Yeah.
You talk about, well, this is how I feel. This is what happened. What do you think?
Mm-hmm.
This kind of thing. The complaining, the bitterness, that never really works. It takes a pretty big person to hear a bunch of bitterness about your own behavior and look past that to the underlying situation.
Okay, great. So we've asked people to consider a lot of things and sent them forth to do battle on their own, but you're not on your own. You're not on your own.
Yeah, well, next week we'll try to come up with the 3 easy steps.
Oh, our listeners do not know how much we hate the 3 easy steps to anything.
And that brings us to A. Now that we've conquered healing.
In about 5 minutes.
Yeah, piece of cake. God, why do you people complain about healing so much? Just go do it. Attend to the bond. A is attend to the bond.
Tend to the bond.
This is big with you, Karen. Tell me about this.
Well, I just think at one point, this idea really resonated with me. This concept of it's you, it's me, and it's the bond. And it's not about really me doing things for you or you doing things for me. We're creating something together. We're creating this bond together, and we're doing things that honor and serve the bond because the bond is important to us. And that just really struck me when I think it was Phil and Michelle Carlson at Connected Marriage who talked most about this concept that the marriage bond really is a person in the marriage, and we can step back and think about, what am I doing right now to strengthen this? The image just really spoke to me.
This makes me think of self-compassion practice. When you first start it, sometimes it's a way of soothing your own pain or developing resilience or finding the energy you need for your life. But as you go forward with the practice, you start to appreciate that being kind to yourself is simply, that's how you treat people.
Right.
That's, as a child of God, that is what you deserve, is kindness and compassion. And other things too. I mean, things are expected of us, but this is our baseline as our human dignity. And the marriage bond, there's some things you do simply because it serves the marriage.
Mm-hmm. When you start to shift how you think about it, it can get you out of some patterns sometimes that we get into around like, well, I shouldn't have to blah, blah, blah. Or, you know, if there's something like, for example, you just mentioned to me that your spouse could change in time that could serve the marriage. But yet in the meantime, there's things that you're going to do to serve the bond, even if I'm not at a point where I can really change that right now. Does that make any sense? Versus getting stuck in, oh, I wish my wife would do X, Y, Z more. Or why doesn't she get over this thing that she can't do? Because why should I have to do this thing to make up for it? Is this making sense?
That makes sense. Instead of focusing on what you've done to me or haven't done, I can focus on the bond and simply think, well, it's not really about her behavior or whatever. Here's the way that people act. And I can do that. I can do that for the bond, even if I'm not really getting what I want from her right now.
Yeah.
That's serving the bond. And it's a different way of looking at things. Sometimes we might think, well, am I contributing my 80% to the marriage? Am I sacrificing? Am I living a sacrificial life? Am I investing? Looking to the bond and just thinking, well, what's going to serve it is a little different perspective.
It is. And I think it really eases up a little bit on the whole, even that question of sacrifice, because you're getting what you want, which is a strong bond. And it's not a sacrifice to invest in your bond. It's a vision for creating something that benefits you and your spouse. So let's move on to the R in SHARP, relationship skills.
Ooh, this is a big one.
How sharp are your relationship skills, honey?
Oh, they're great. I'm not feeling too confident all of a sudden.
Well, in a way, I think some of this is what we've been talking about this season, is here's some individual skills that we wanted to work on and pay more attention to. And we've invited our listeners to come along and do that with us.
There's one relationship skill I practice on you all the time. I bet you don't know what it is.
I bet I don't. Well, you're a good validator, and you're really good at like relating to what I'm saying and not judging me. But I don't think that's what you're referring to.
I read your energy. I'm always
Really?
reading your energy. I'm looking at your face mostly and your body language.
Oh,
I'm trying to see kind of where you're at.
okay.
And a lot of this goes back to your health situations. I want to be interacting in an appropriate way.
Okay.
When you're feeling up, that's a good time for some things. And when you're kind of sinking in, then
Yes.
there's a different way to approach you.
So you're creating awareness and then you're maybe adjusting expectations based on where my energy seems to be.
Yeah, it's just a matter of knowing something about the person you're talking to. And I mean, when somebody's in a good mood, that's a time to discuss certain things. And
Yeah.
when they're not doing so well, you avoid certain things.
Right. Okay.
And I learned that skill during that pregnancy training stuff.
Really?
Yeah. So one of the signposts for labor is look at your wife's face and see what the expression on her face is. And I
Draw an inference.
yeah. So we could time the contractions. We could do all those things. But it was looking at your energy that told me, oh, now it's time to go to the hospital.
This is really making a lot of sense because in my labors, they wouldn't ever get close enough, the contractions, like to where they say, okay, now when they're this close, you call the hospital. So I'd call the nurse and she'd be like, oh, well, just wait and see, blah, 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 blah. So then I'd be like, okay. And then you'd come home from work and you'd take one look at me and be like, we're going to the hospital.
Yeah, that's right.
So you learned that skill. Well done.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
So that's a customized relationship thing. We are students of our spouses, hopefully. And there's endless lists of skills: communication, validation, resolving conflict, vulnerability. What a huge skill. We've touched on that recently, I think.
Sharing well. Mm-hmm.
And Karen, my feeling is that people that want to grow in their relationship skills, they're going to find a way to do it.
Right.
We've talked about listening a lot, the relating to your young adult episodes. Speak to that.
Oh, those can totally
acceptance,
be applied.
validation.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of self-help books. You can learn a lot. You have something to learn as well.
Yeah.
And you don't have to do everything they say. You can go in there and see what works and give something a try. We've really benefited from all our coaching training.
Oh, it's totally
and
helped.
Relationship skills. It's helped a lot. And it's not like we use a lot of big, heavy hitting conflict skills all the time. It's more like the little ones, all the listening and this kind of thing. So
I think part of the mindset we want to have here is just to always be seeking to grow in these skills. So finding a new skill to learn, finding a skill you already know about to practice and see how you're doing and get better at. It's just having the intention and the mindset to always be working on it and paying attention to it.
before we move on, Karen, do you remember learning about inferential listeners and literal listeners?
I will never, ever forget sitting in that seminar. And I don't know why we never encountered it before. It was just a different take on communication styles. And they started explaining inferential versus literal listening. And we just started cracking up. We were...
Karen's a very literal listener. You tell
am.
her something, she's like, okie dokie. There's no water in the refrigerator. Okie dokie. But if she said that to me, I would immediately think, get up and go fill a glass with water and some ice cubes and bring it to your wife right away.
Yeah.
That's inferential. I'm drawing the conclusion.
Yeah.
What does she really mean by that?
Yes, she must mean do this for me. Take some action.
Exactly.
Right now. Yes.
Karen, P in SHARP is personal growth, personal and or spiritual growth. Really, we've spent recent episodes talking about the importance of personal growth, and we need to keep growing and it's going to help you in your spiritual life if you will do some personal growth as well.
Sure. So it's that idea about working on ourselves and growing ourselves, and that shifts our relationship and improves our marriage.
It shifts our relationship when you've gone through big episodes of personal growth or spiritual growth. Karen, we went through this. We had a season of hope in our marriage where we started to really understand what Christian hope is. And that was incredibly helpful. It's something I can't wait to share with our audience. But it's an example of really you having the spiritual growth, and then I benefited from that.
And I even think it helped us create that shared vision about even just how we wanted to approach certain situations in life and how we wanted to approach our time here together.
Right. All these skills, they interrelate.
Mm-hmm.
They're all connected.
Exactly. So I just hope, listeners, that you found a nugget here in this episode to take forward and to put into some kind of action for yourself. So as you leave us here, maybe consider what's one nugget that you'd like to take forth in the coming weeks and implement for yourself.
Well, let me recap as quickly as I can, Karen. So SHARP, that's the shared vision or shared story.
Yeah.
What will you say about your life? Healing. Do you want to seek some healing? Do you want to offer it? Could you benefit from some healing, some forgiveness, perhaps? Attending to the bond. There it is. Is it being eroded? Are we working to strengthen it? Relationship. Oh boy, do you have some skills here? Do you have some skills you could grow here in your relationship? What if your spouse suddenly made a big leap in relationship skills? Do you think you would like that? Yes, you would.
Yes,
it would
you
be
would.
Awesome. And personal growth. Are you growing? You can grow wherever you're at. You can, and it'll always be good.
Awesome.
So find that nugget. Choose that thing you're going to bring to your marriage. And we'll see you next week. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being here with us. The Catholic Midlife Podcast is for anyone that wants to receive the abundance of life that God has for each one of us. Take a moment right now to tell a friend about us.